The key to lifelong breathing, you said it before, is nasal breathing that is light, slow, deep, and smooth. What I would really like to leave with you on this one is the acronym LSD, light, slow, deep. Smooth generally takes care of itself. And if you are paying attention, you will already be breathing through your nose. LSD, light, slow, and deep. So what does light mean? Light means just reducing the volume of the air coming in. So it's not a big, that would be big. I really don't want to do that again. Light is a breath that's coming in through your nose that you can't hear. Slow is quite obvious. If you think about the frequency, the number of times you breathe per minute, it's just making sure that it's not too fast. Too fast is high teens into 20s. If you're floating in and around the mid-teens to the low teens, you're doing a really good job. If you're breathing 10 times every minute, that means you're inhaling for 3 seconds, exhaling for 3 seconds. Now, of course, there might be some pauses in there. It might not be exactly the same, but that's not terribly slow. If you were to try that right now, take a breath in for 3 seconds and then breathe out for 3 seconds. The cycle 6 seconds, 10 of those in a minute. It's not ridiculously slow breathing. So just to prove that you can do slow. Now, deep. How do we do deep? Deep means using the diaphragm muscle. The diaphragm is the main breathing muscle. You can actually feel it if you just start to poke around under the ribs at the front there. That's your breathing muscle. When it contracts, it pulls down, it creates negative pressure in the chest cavity, and it draws air in. It is an active breathing mechanism. We actually have to do work to breathe in. When we relax, we breathe out. The diaphragm stops contracting, it relaxes, and it pushes the air out because there's no negative pressure in the lungs. Awareness is massively important. If you are not aware, if you're not conscious, if you are not paying attention to your breathing, you really can't do much about it. And that's largely the problem with most of society. We really need to be paying attention to how we breathe. Now, yes, we can't be doing that all the time, but we can all do a little bit better. And you would be surprised how much benefit you'll get out of a little bit better. Practice. Now, this is really where the rubber hits the road. If you do have asthma, if you do have any other breathing dysfunction, if you're anxious, if you want to really improve breathing as part of a larger health and wellness regimen, you must practice. You have to dedicate time to it. In the 4-week program, we go through all of the exercises and we look at different protocols that you can use, which sort of resemble a workout for a gym. Now, it's not as intense as a 60-minute workout in the gym, and it may not even take you that long. It may only be 20 minutes a day, but you do need to be diligent with your practice. You have to be consistent and you have to commit. I toyed around with this on purpose for a little while, where I just took an ad hoc approach to breathing, and I found that there was diminishing returns in that respect. So if you were to dedicate 3 to 6 months to diligent practice, you will notice some amazing, amazing results. I'd just like to quickly talk about measuring progress. We do have a measure within the Buteyko method called the control pause. We aren't going to do it today. What we actually measure with this is the time that we hold the breath on the exhalation from the beginning of the hold till the first physiological desire to breathe. And what that is, it's a signal in the body. It's a tremor in your diaphragm, or most likely for most people, you actually feel it in the throat. It's like a little tickle in the throat. And we measure that in seconds, and it gives us an indication of the quality of breath. And what has been determined is if you have a control pause that's less than 20 seconds, it's indicative that you are likely or much more likely to have breathing dysfunction. Everyone that I have worked with that has come to me with asthma has been well below 20. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who had a score higher than 15. I'll explain the protocol in a moment so you could test it yourself, but it does take some getting used to. We take some time in the program to get into it because it's one of those ones where we have to make sure we're measuring apples with apples, not apples with bananas. When we improve our breathing with exercises from the Buteyko method, our control pause increases. And when we get to 25 to 30 seconds of a control pause, we start to see the symptoms disappear. And quite often they only come back if they're triggered by something, which may be pollen or dust or something like that. When we get to 40, which I will admit is quite challenging, I am not there yet myself, because what is required to get to 40, sort of between 30 and 40, is adding physical exercise to the practice of breathing. And that moves more towards the oxygen advantage that I mentioned earlier. But there's very little chance you have breathing dysfunction if you have a control pause of 40. So this is the goal. This is what we move to. And again, we're not talking about perfection, but we're moving towards that. So I am going to quickly show you what this looks like. My mother came and visited me here 6 months ago. Her control pause was 4 seconds. Her control pause is now 20. So if you have a low one, it's only indicative of where you are now, and it can improve really quickly. So let me quickly show you what it looks like. What I would normally be doing is not speaking. I would just be breathing normally in and out through the nose, take a normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch and hold my nose, and I hold it until I can feel it here. So it would look like, it's not very interesting to watch, but I'll show you anyway. That was somewhere around about 20. I didn't feel it there then. I got a little tickle in my nose. So sometimes it's hard to measure, and that's why going into it today can be quite difficult. It's something that needs to be practiced a few times so you can get the sensation of what it's like. If you want to practice it yourself to get a number, you'll get a little bit of an idea of what it's like. Again, as you practice it more and more, when you're practicing the Buteyko method moving forward, I would ask you to practice it at the start of every week, just so we have a measure going forward. We know where you are.